Hi, welcome to Possibilities with Pencil, hosted by Stanley Creates, the University of Iowa Stanley Museum of Art. Today, we are going to explore exactly what to do with just a simple number 2 pencil. My name is Megan Daner, and I'm a K-12 art teacher in Iowa City. And while I might call myself an artist, you too are an artist. You are creative, you are smart, and today, with just some pencil and paper, you are going to make some art. You don't need much. And we'll go over materials in a minute, but the steps you can do to explore some pencils. First, discuss drawing with pencils and do a little warm-up exercise. And then we'll look at some drawings that are at the Stanley. And then finally, we'll draw with some pencils and experiment. And we'll read a story about pencils and drawings, if you so choose. It's linked on the slideshow. And then you can share your drawings with someone that you love. So what you need is just a simple pencil, maybe a sharpener if you don't have more than one pencil, some paper, it could be cardboard, it could be Post-it notes, it could be all sorts of things, but as long as you can draw on it safely, and then optional, an eraser and scissors if you so choose. To get those drawing juices flowing, I recommend a short exercise, 5 minutes spent with something a little goofy and funny. Some options are here. Draw a flamingo doing ballet, draw a person with donuts for eyes, draw a house made of mittens. They could be mittens or gloves. Or finally, you choose to draw something that you love. After you kind of do this for about 5 minutes, there's no rules. That way you're ready to get some more experiment under your belt. Obviously, you're welcome to do it for 5 minutes or longer or shorter. And to inspire you further from your warm-up exercise, we're going to look at some artwork from the Stanley. The first is a landscape by Augustus Wall Callcott, and it is a simple landscape. However, it's important to look at, did the artist spend a lot of time drawing this or not? I don't know. That's something to decide for yourself. Some of the elements we can really determine what they are, maybe some trees, some clouds, but some of the other elements are a little bit more tricky, something to think about. Then we have an artwork by Margot Kren, an interior pencil drawing, something from the inside. And it looks really cozy. And how did this artist choose to use the pencil to make it look really cozy? Something to consider. Finally, a couple of portraits by Caroline Durieux, brother Rankin and sister Rankin, to look at what's the difference between portraiture, interiors, and landscapes, and also how carefully the artist drew these portraits. Something to think about. So, as you have those artworks in your mind, and now it's time to experiment. You're welcome to, I recommend just sort of going for it and seeing what happens. I'm going to walk through a few of these techniques. The first one is a blended fade, and it's where you start pressing really hard using the tip of your pencil, and then you slowly let up the pressure, and it becomes lighter and lighter. You can see I have some other examples here. Scumbling, I like to think of it as little circles on top of one another to kind of look like curly hair. Super, super curly, beautiful hair. And then as you press, and then you get lighter with your circles, you get less graphite on the page, and it goes from darker to light in these sort of circle patterns. Stippling, hatching, and cross-hatching are simply lines in one direction for hatching, and cross-hatching is taking another set of lines and going on top. The closer the lines, the darker the graphite will look. Burnishing is where you take the very edge of that pencil and you press it as hard as you can, almost to like layer down the graphite on the paper, and you keep going and going and going over it and over it and over again to see how dark you can actually get it. Directional lines are made simply by making sure that the lines follow each other's path. I have some other examples here, and it gives the viewer the idea of where the lines are going. Some other techniques that are fun to try are it's called torn paper smearing or stenciling. You just need a simple piece of paper, just tore it. Then you draw on that piece of paper, just and you burnish. And you put down a lot of graphite, and then you take your finger, you find an empty space. Oops, and a Post-it works nice because then it stays. I'm going to come over here and do this. I'm pressing the graphite into the paper, and then I'm going to lift it up, and I get just the ever slightest outline. You can see I have some other experiments here too. Line drawing, where you're just simply using lines to draw. You may have done that with your exercise. And eraser drawings. So I have some examples here of a symbol of a heart and just 2 little X's where I put down a bunch of graphite and then I went back in and erased to make a shape on top. That is another way to add a lot of interest to your pencil drawings. Consider experimenting with all of these techniques. There's no right or wrong. And I encourage you to try a longer drawing of something that's outside, inside a person, or something that doesn't exist. I know there's a lot of artists that like unicorns and dragons, for example. So experiment with these techniques and see what new things you can draw. Spend about 10 minutes experimenting and see what happens. I also encourage you to read a couple of stories about pencils. There's actually quite a few. One I like is called Linus, the Little Yellow Pencil. And then another one is called When Pencil Met Eraser. And spend about 10 minutes after maybe you look at those those picture books and your experiments, drawing something that you find interesting. Then take that drawing and show someone that you think will be interested. Show off the different techniques that you learned and where maybe you put them, and also maybe teach someone else. And all of a sudden, you have created a piece of art. So after you've done some experiment with just some pencil and paper, you can remember that you are creative, you are smart. And today, just with some pencils and paper, you made some art. Thanks for joining me.